Hey now everyone, welcome to another eLo Vapor Info and Review Video 2. Today we're going to be looking at the rebuild of a Kanger Protank 2 head. I actually skipped this ahead of some of the other tips that I had going on, so our tip for the day is going to be over on the bench behind me here, and that'll be on a rebuild, how I rebuild my Protank heads, which I try to do them as easy as possible. I always want them to come out right around like the 1.92-ish. But you know, you can adjust that. You can play with it as much as you want. So you can get the ohms to come out wherever you want. I actually was putting one together just now and shorted after short after short, and don't know what's going on. So I apologize for this video being a little late uploaded. I know I said every Sunday, but you know, already production delays. Sounds like the Fedora production delays. But anyway, I'll get it up obviously Monday. Have this video ready to go. But I think it's important. Everybody was asking about it, and actually, it's really late right now. I just came back from a vape meet with my club, and it's been a long day, long vaping day. Had some really good experiences, really bad. Now my RSST emptied the entire contents all over my tools. Forgot I had it in there. And if anybody knows anything about Jennies, they need to pretty much be standing straight up and down. It didn't. Anyway, kind of moving forward, what we're going to look at today actually is a nice little device, and it's right here. Kind of hard to see, but we're going to take a little closer look at this over on the table here, over on the bench. And what is it? Well, it's a 650 mAh Ego battery, and I think this is probably the one that everybody starts out with, pretty much. You know, it's that one battery that most every vapor has in their case, and most people start out with, and I was no different. As I said in my first video, you know, when I was looking for something, I did not want the e-cigarette, so went over and I knew I wanted a vaporizer, and you know, this is it, C5 Clearo, and we're taking a closer look at it, how to fill it, what it is, over on the bench. I actually ended up with Grape liquid. Once again, we'll take a closer look at this one, and yeah, there's the packaging. Still kept it. By Tripl3 Ego. And it says it works best with their liquid, but I can guarantee you it'll work best with any liquid. That's a misnomer there. You know, can't blame them from trying to you know, go ahead and promote their own liquid too. I guess they're talking about the blend of their actual e-liquids here, and as I said, we'll take a closer look at the e-liquid over on the bench there. But for right now, we'll go ahead and cut over to the Kanger tip. So if you guys are just sticking around for the Kanger tip, by all means, you can cut out afterwards. But after the Kanger tip, we'll come back and we'll go ahead and maybe just move right into the bench as it was with as I said, we were going to take a closer look at this thing before we'll see how it vapes. So we'll go ahead and head over there on the bench and do the tip and take the close-up look of the
So now
Ego
we're
battery.
going to go ahead and torch Eco wool here. So it's white hot. Hopefully you can hear me over the video, but you can see it's really glowing, and you want that thing just to be as hot and white as possible. Thank goodness I didn't burn the camera. And we're going to continue torching. We're going to get the wire here nice and torched. Just want it glowy red. And this will make it a lot easier to use when you're wrapping your coil. You got to be careful because it will want to take off on you when you get down to this part right here where the pliers have a hold of, because it's got so much weight at the end just from that wire. When you heat it up, it wants to start to melt, and it's going to want to turn. See, it starts to move just a little bit. I don't know if you can notice that on camera, but This is mainly just to get all the crud off of it, and also to make it a lot easier to use and work with because it's not as springy. So now that we have our silica heated up, you can see it's not fraying at the end, and this is not as springy as we're using a 32 gauge Kanthal wire here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start, and I'm aiming for the middle, and I have pretty big fingers, so when I grab a hold of this, I can basically place this right at the beginning of my first wrap, and I know that I'll be about right in the middle. So when I'm doing the first wrap, I try to keep it as straight as possible, and all I'm doing here is coming around 1, 2, here's 3 coming around, 4 coming around, and 5. Now don't worry if they're not completely straight at this point. That is okay, because all you have to do is take your small screwdriver here, your flathead, and you can mess around with these a little bit. Now if you're doing this with silica, and this is my build with silica here, or with Eco Wool rather, if you're doing it with silica, remember that with silica, and all I'm doing is pulling these a little tighter because with Eco Wool and silica you want that wire to be right on there, real nice and tight, unlike if you're doing a mesh build or something. But what you're looking for here is just to get them sort of even. They don't have to be perfect. Especially the underneath is the one I work on, because after it's in, this is going to be the end of it right here. So we take our Kanger head base right here, and we're going to feed these two wires, I just hold them together, down through the center. You notice there is a lip, a little bit of a lip there in that center, and so they will get caught, so you have to be pretty careful when you thread them through. And there, they got caught already, so I'm glad that happened on camera. Everybody sees that. But there we go, right in there. So now you're looking at that. You can center it just a little bit, angle that for you there, and you can see there we got our 2mm Eco Wool with our 32 gauge Kanthal at 5 wraps, and we're looking for around 2 ohm here. So now what I'm doing is I'm looking for the short wire, and I'm going to take that short wire and I'm going to bend it, really a good strong bend. Get this one other one out of the way so it doesn't poke me in the finger here, and I'm going off camera, but get a good bend there. Next thing, our insulator head. So the insulator right there, you can see this one's been used pretty good. It's got a couple of marks on her. These will last for quite a long time, so all I do is I feed it through the longest one, not the one that I just bent, and I want to keep that, you can see that brown mark, that burnt mark there. I want to keep that away from the wire that I just bent, and all I'm going to do is start working that into the base, and I've got it started. Now I have one wire through and I have one wire on the side of it. I'm just going to push it in, and it's at that point when you push it in that these can become, if you don't have your finger over there over that base, they can really get away on you and they'll start moving around. You can see that one lined up pretty good. Let's see if I can get a little more light on that. That one lined up pretty good. So what we're going to do now, turn this back over, and we're going to take our, this is the actual part that makes contact with the battery, or with the device rather, and push that in. So now we have, if you're looking at this close enough, I hope you can see it, you have one wire sticking out from underneath the insulator where it makes its ring, and you have one sticking out on the top of the insulator. And I'm just going to cut those flush as close as I can get them. There's one. And, oh, missed it. There we go. So now we have a completed head there. And remember, this is my build, so I'm actually going to leave those sticking out there like that. I'm going to push that down in there, and it's just press fit. Now it makes a good fit all the way around. Don't forget this part, the silica cap here, as it goes back on, or rather the silicone, I guess. The cap here, that is actually what holds the juice and prevents a lot of leaking. So there it is right there. Let's go ahead and throw it on the base and bring my ohm checker over. Let's see what we get here. Alright, so we have the new completed head on the ohm checker, and let's see what we get. And we were shooting for around 2, and yeah, not bad. 2.15. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed the Kanger tip, and little leftover there, eco. Anyway, so as I was saying, you know, the beginning of my story, it began with this very simple battery. And what is it? What does it do? Well, first off, it's a 650 mAh battery, and all mAh means is the length of battery time you're going to get out of the battery. So the higher the mAh, the longer it lasts. This is probably one of the you know, most basic, as I said, batteries. There's no adjustments to be made on it. As you can see here, it just has a threading on it. It does have the fire button, which is right here, and when I click it, it will light blue. Notice it doesn't fade away right away. I can push it and let go, and it fades slowly. You see that? So it does have a little bit of fire even after you let go of the button there. So it will keep on firing whatever is attached to it. There are no adjustments with this one. If you remember I showed you my Tesla there in the first video. It has lots of adjustments that can be made on it. This one is just straight up 3.7 volts delivered right through there, right into here, which is the tank system that originally comes with this. And the tank system is just you can look them up, you can buy them. They're C5s, is what they're actual called. And you can see here I put a little bit of liquid in there because these things actually need a little bit of time to prime, and that's kind of why I'm rolling it around. These things pretty much have to be straight up and down, these type. Notice that there's no wicks inside this tank. You get a good view of that. But there are those two holes. Those two holes, and there's two more on the other side here, they are actually what feed the liquid into the center column, and you can see that center column is just that metal post in there. That's where the actual action takes place of vaporizing the e-liquid into vapor so that it can be inhaled, and therefore the nicotine can be inhaled, and you're going to get your hit of nicotine. So you know, really just clever idea. It's a very simple one. This is not rebuildable, in case you guys are wondering. This is a straight up disposable. So once this thing starts tasting bad, once it doesn't perform, once the liquid changes taste and basically it gets gunked up, it is done. These are throwaway. These do get rather expensive, and this is probably my first, you know, being my first one, it's a good starter. But boy, if you're going to continue on this path of vaping, this is definitely not the way to go. These things will run you out of money real quick. So you would be buying these every couple of weeks, and then you would also be buying the liquid. Depending on how much you're vaping, you know, I can go through 5 mils in a day, and this is a 10 mil bottle. So I know I'm, you know, kind of everybody's getting frightened here with mils, but that's how everything's measured with vaping, mostly because it comes from China and Japan, and you know, even Korea getting in on it, but mostly China. And you know, obviously they don't use standard US measurements. They use theirs. They use what everybody else uses. So a mil is just, you know, basically telling you that this is a 10 mil bottle. That's how much e-liquid you get in here. To fill this thing, it is actually rather simple. So all we got to do is take this top off, and I'm going to try to get it on film here. But if you can see this silica ring right here, this little O-ring, do not under any circumstances lose that thing. If you lose it, this is basically a throwaway at that point. You can toss it in the garbage. Unless you can go out and find some surgical grade O-rings or another type of O-ring. But there it is right there. You can see it. It actually does slide up and down. So you got to be rather careful with it. That needs to be seated right up against those threads, because that's what creates the seal against this. And if you don't do that, you're going to have liquid all over your hands and device and everything else. So all I'm doing is I'm taking the cap off here. You can see it has this Grape is the kind I started out with right there. And you notice the 1.5%. Now, Tripl does something a little different. Most of the time in e-liquid, they come in a nick level, and this nick level happens to be 1.5%. What that translates to in real vaping world, which you're going to hear, you won't hear 1.5%, 2%, 0.06%, 0.09%, 1.2%. You're not going to hear that. What you're going to hear is 6, 12, 20, 24, 18, 36. That sounds like a football play. Hut, hut, hut. Anyway, looking this over, you know, what they're doing here is they're creating their own brand. They're creating their own specifications on this. So if you would hear this anywhere else, they would say that this is a 15 nic level. That has to do with how much nicotine's in here. 1.5 or 15, and I'm going to start referring to it as 15 now. 15 nic level would be somewhere between an ultralight and a light. Your 24 that you'd see would be more of a light to a regular, and 36 would be very heavy. That would be like an unfiltered cigarette. So I do recommend starting out with somewhere around a this mark. Most of the time, as I said, you're going to see 12, 18, and 24. Those are your main go-tos. When you get into different rebuilding stuff, your rebuilds, they can look like all different sorts of things. In fact, that's a rebuildable right there. When you get into that and you start going to playing around with what we call ohms, which is the resistance on the coil inside, and I'll talk about that later, and you can also check that out at a website I have available for you over here in the main screen. You can start playing around with the nic level. If 15 is not enough for you, this one probably is not going to be the liquid to go to. This is basically what it comes in from the shop that I got it from, which is just a local smoke shop. So to fill this thing, very easy. Just tip it on in there. And what I'm trying to miss is that center hole. You can see it right there. All you have to do is remember to miss that. And to do that, if you push that tip all the way in, and I'll try to get a picture of it. There it is right there. You can barely see it. Just poking through. Ooh. As long as you miss that, you're pretty good shape. You just don't want anything down there. And I'll tell you why. That is actually the air intake. That's where you're actually bringing the vapor from the tank and from the wicking system that's in these things up to your mouth and into your lungs. And so if you get anything in there, you're going to have e-liquid all. You're going to have just a nice straw, juice straw as Phil refers to it. Notice I just threaded that on there, and it doesn't take many turns, and I'm tightening that down pretty secure to make sure that it doesn't leak. And you can see it doesn't, but you can see all the bubbles in here. So I'm going to turn it the way it should go, which is right side, just standing straight up. Get the cap out of my way here. There we go. Alright, now let's go ahead and thread this thing on. Whoop. There it is. This battery and this tank, a very good starting vape. You can find these just about anywhere. One of the vape meet guys that I meet with on a monthly basis at our meets, he sells these. They're relatively cheap. They're in the $20 range, and they're a great way to get started just to try it. A few packs of smokes would pay for it, and it might be worth a try to get off cigarettes for the rest of your life. The system on this thing does have an on and off, and if I give it a 5 clicks, it'll blink at me and it's off. Okay, at that point right now I could put this in my pocket, and you notice that button is not firing anymore. So it's done. It won't fire at all, and it is in safe. So you can do whatever you want to it, bump it, nothing's happening. Now, to get it to vape again, we're just going to click it 5 times. This is a clicker, and there it comes back on again. So let's head back over the main screen and see how this thing vapes. Okay, so I think I said this thing before in the first video, but once again, don't just buy an e-cigarette.
That's my tip. That's another tip. That's a free one. Go with a vaporizer system. If you want to get off cigarettes, this thing's really the way to go. The vaporizers, they don't have to be, spectacular. This thing, obviously, it's not a whole lot, but it does work. It'll give you the nicotine, believe me, because the first night I vaped the heck out of this thing and ended up with a massive nicotine headache. So, you can go to the stores and try these things, but, the battery's not going to last all day, so you might want to grab a couple of them. There are, different cartridges and tanks you can buy for them. This one, as I said, is just a simple C5. Actually, I showed you a little bit about it over on the bench, but, that's just a simple C5. If you're worried about getting the all-day vape out of this, you might want to grab a couple of these or a higher mAh battery. And I explained what mAh was to you guys, and it's, very basically, the bigger the number, the longer the battery lasts. In fact, I'll grab one of my Panasonics. I just got these in, and I'll do a review on these, as I get closer to, working through the review. But, I mean, you can check these things out. These things are massive compared to this. You see the size comparison there. It come on. This thing, a lot heavier too. So these batteries, these are 3,400 milliamp Panasonic 18650 batteries. These will last me on a heavy vape day all day long, just because of the high mAh. This, on the other hand, on a heavy vape day, no way. 650, boy, I'd be lucky to get 4 or 5 hours out of it. But when you're just first starting to quit, you probably will still have that cigarette now and then, and this thing might get you by all day. And if there's any fear of that, though, the batteries are cheap enough. You can pick them up. So anyway, buying the first Ego kit, like many first-time cigarette quitters, vapor starters, I didn't do a whole lot of research. In my first video, I said, basically, I heard about it, I saw it, and I wanted to try it. And kind of just called around to some smoke shops, found one. All right, I'm coming by. I'm going to get this thing. So, you go there, you pick this thing up, and now what do you do with it? I had no idea. I took it out of the package. I assumed, how to fill it up. Got that part kind of straightened around. Didn't know about the O-ring that I told you guys about. Lost one of the O-rings. Made this thing completely useless until I emptied another tank and could put the O-ring back on the tank that I lost it for. The C5, I mean. And, just kind of learned as I went. Turning it on, showed you the 5 clicks. You can read that on the package, but who reads the packages? Directions. Thinking directions. So anyway, looking at that, kind of first impressions were sketchy at best. I didn't know what I was doing, with this thing. So, once again, another recommendation: go find a nice vape shop, a local one, and they're going to help you through this. Now, they did not have my tobacco, and I smoked ultralights, Marlboros, Sonomas, whatever, and they did not have it, and thank goodness they didn't, because when I got the Grape, it took me a couple of days to get off cigarettes, maybe a little longer than what it might have, but I mean, in 4 days, I'm not complaining. That was amazing. Now, your experience, I know vapors that have been vaping for a year and still have the occasional cigarette. As long as they're not having it all the time, that's a win. It's a win in my book. So, the device itself, it delivers basically a 3.7 volt hit, so that means this battery is going to dump 3.7 onto the coils, which are just wires surrounded by some sort of wicking system, whether it be like a cotton, silica, an eco wool. These basically little wires get very hot. Those coils heat up, vaporize your liquid. 3.7 volts on this C5 is it's great. I mean, it really does work well. So take a vape here. I mean, it's not a whole lot of vapor, not what I'm used to now, but when I first started, it worked. It did its job, and of course, you can take a longer draw on it, and you can, play around with the hit time. You can even start to hit it before and you'll hear it burn. Don't know if you hear that or not. But you can hear it, and you can go ahead and so there's a little bigger cloud. The flavor is okay from these. I'm not a fan of these anymore because I've worked my way through other stuff now, and there's so much better out there. But to begin with, if you're just going to try it, this might be the way to start. So looking at this thing, we looked at how it fires. We looked at how it, to take a draw. Basically, you hit that button and away you go. It's not really that complicated. As you're getting started with this, we talked about the battery. I do have the puff counter here. They say between 300 and 400 puffs, but you measure that in hours. And while I was at work, I can't vape at work. You might be able to. I can't. I have to go out on breaks. And so during those breaks, it's only 10-15 minute break, and it's only 3 times a day. And lunch, really, you eat lunch at your desk, and then you go out and have a quick smoke, and not any smoking, vaping. So in the evenings, yeah, this thing would get a little dead by the evening, by 9-10 o'clock. I get home about 4:30 from work. But on a work day, it worked just fine. And on the weekend, vaping, it wasn't going to last. There was no way. I liked it too much. I was vaping it too much, and there was no way it was going to last. Once again, the cost around these for $20, roughly. You can get the lanyards between $4 and $6 for them, and all the lanyard is a way to, kind of hook it on to what looks like a necklace or a lanyard, and it just clips right on. The ring actually slides over these and secures itself, and that way, you don't even have to hold it. It just sits right there, and then you pick it up and have a vape. The C5, let's talk a little bit about that. We looked at it on the desk, and yeah, it works. It does what it needs to do. It is basically a clearomizer, and it goes to town, fill it up with liquid. I would recommend, though, if you wanted to try several different liquids, get a couple of these. It does not change out flavor well at all. So if you've got grape and you want to try watermelon and you didn't buy an extra one of these, I'd be very apprehensive about going ahead and taking the grape and dumping it out or dumping it back in the bottle. I wouldn't dump it out; it's too expensive. Stuff's too expensive. Dump it back in the bottle and then pour your watermelon in. I tried it a couple of times. I could never get the flavor out of these. Maybe you're different. It just never got out there. So be careful with that. Buy a separate one for each one. Looking at this thing, I think the ohms on this one is 2.4, and I talked about resistance a little bit. If you want to see more of that, and we'll go over more about ohms and stuff in future videos, but you can actually go check out tasteyourjuice.com. I mentioned, Phil Persardo a couple of times, and he has a whole thing on ohms and ohms laws and how to calculate it. And unless you're rebuilding, if you're just going with this, or if you're just going with, a regular tank system with heads that you're going to buy and you're not rebuilding them, you don't need to know that stuff. You can just adjust it to taste if you have a variable voltage or variable wattage device, like I was showing on my Tesla here, that it does have some adjustments on it that can be made, and it can take itself up and down in wattage. I have it in wattage mode right now, but you don't have to worry about all that with this. It's just hit it and go. Yeah, not bad. So it has decent flavor. It'll give you a warmer vape. As opposed to some devices that give a cooler vape, and it just depends on how hot that coil's getting in there, and then the distance it has to travel. So it's not a hot vape by any means, and it's not the warmest vape I ever had, but it's not bad. I like the round drip tip on these. I don't know if you can see the roundness of those. Some have a whistle tip, and I am not a fan of whistle tip. In fact, most of the people I know are not fans of whistle tips, and all that means is it has the tip like a whistle. You put it in your mouth like a ref whistle. This one's rounded. That's just preference for me. you know, as I said, these things are throwaway, and the price eluded me over there on the desk, but they're about $5. So as I said, you know, if you're going to be vaping a lot, this might be a good way to get started. But if you're going to like it and you're going to keep on going, not the way to go. These will run you too much money over time. And I said, you know, make sure that if you're going to get different liquids, like I got grape and watermelon the very first day. Oh, make sure you get a couple of these things. I'll tell you that. The e-liquid, you know, I researched these as much as I could, the triple liquid, and I believe they are 100% VG juices. And, you know, that's a pretty thick liquid, which is probably why the holes in the C5 are so big that I showed over there, where the liquid goes into the wicking system and where it meets the coil. You know, as far as that goes, what's that mean? Well, you can go check that out too. There's plenty of places to look on the internet. Grim, he has a whole video on it about, you know, PG-VG ratios, but and thickness and what it all means. But you can also check out, I found a good one, it's Vape Geek. If you go to Google, type in Vape Geek, they'll tell you all about, you know, PG and VG if you're really that interested in it. So the nicotine level we were talking about, you know, between light and ultralight, which is not bad. You know, it gives you a good hit there. So overall, don't want this video to run too long. It'll last a very long time. These batteries are very reliable. They last a really long time. The C5s, can't say the same for them. They will go in and out all the time on you, and you'll have to throw them away and replace them. Really a cheap kit to get started with. Though, if I was getting started now, if I knew now what I only knew then, or if I knew then what I only know now, one of the two, I would have went with a variable voltage. They sell these, and they have just a little twist at the bottom here, where that silver cap is, and it twists, and it adjusts your voltage, which, I mean, you know, that gives so much more versatility to these things. So many more devices that can be attached and different ohms and things like that, and they'll taste right because all you have to do is adjust your voltage. You're not stuck at 3.7. You can adjust it to taste. If it, you know, if you like a drier hit, a warmer bit, whatever, you can adjust that. So, you know, Ego Twist or the Tornadoes, you know, go with a variable voltage, variable wattage for sure. Would be another tip of mine. Would be a recommendation. Basically, it is, you know, it is what it is. It does what it needs to do, and it got me off cigarettes. That was the main thing it did. So this one will probably never be thrown away, even when it stops working. It might even go up on the old wall there, just because it was the very first thing that allowed me to stop smoking, and I think that's, you know, worthy of keeping it around, even if it goes bad or whatever you want to call it, or stops working. So, you know, after 17 years of smoking, finally done with it, got the fixation I needed, got the nicotine. So that is the Ego 650 mAh review, and a little more story of my vape experience. So remember, stay digital, not analog.